Hey there, Internet. Today we're going to talk about none other than Ubuntu. Now this is the most, well, I should say it used to be the most popular version of Linux, but even though it's not the most popular, it's still one of the more popular versions, and that a lot of people know and associate Linux with. So before we begin, if you haven't seen my first video that talks a lot more in depth about some of the different programs and settings and other things of Linux, I would definitely recommend checking that video out first, so the things that I'm talking about today won't seem so complex and confusing. Because I go into more depth about them in the first video. If you would like to see that video, I'll definitely have a link down in the description. I'll also try and have one of those box tile thingies pop up in the corner over here. You know, I'll try and figure out how to do that. So, again, if you're not super familiar with Linux, definitely check that video out. But if you've seen it or you're very familiar with Linux, how about we get on our way? So you'll notice that Ubuntu looks very different than Microsoft Windows, Mac, and even some of the other Linux, or I should say, the other Linux system we talked about in our last video, Linux Mint. So probably by now you've figured out that if you want to open up some of the more common apps, they're listed up along here on the side. So obviously you have things like Firefox and Thunderbird for web and email. Files is, for files. You got Rhythmicbox for things like music. You have LibreOffice Write for writing Word documents. Ubuntu Software, which used to be called the Ubuntu One Store, which is for apps. We'll get more to that in just a little bit. Help, Amazon, and down here I have two other applications open. I have OBS, which I personally installed, which is allowing me to record my screen here and you to watch this video. In addition to YouTube. And also, you have the software updater, which we'll talk more about in just a minute. But, obviously, if you wanted to open an application, you would, or at least one of the common ones here, you would, obviously put your mouse over it and single left click. You can see that it opens. And there you go. You have LibreOffice Write. Now, in our last video, we did talk a little bit about this and the LibreOffice suite, which has a bunch of applications to write documents, to make PowerPoints and open Excels. Granted, they're not called those. They have different names, but again, they can open them. You can do just about a majority of the same things, because LibreOffice is kind of like the Microsoft Office equivalent for Linux. Again, it's free and open source, and in kind of an almost ironic twist, it's available on Mac and Windows too. So if you kind of want to do some basic PowerPoint and some Words and Excel, and you're not wanting to shell out a couple $100 for a copy of Microsoft Office, you might want to look into LibreOffice. And again, in our first video, we talk a lot more about it. But getting back away from my tangent here, you can see that the program has opened and that it's selected here, but also, if you've noticed, there's a little red dot next to it. These red dots indicate not only that a program is open, but how many windows of that program is open. So obviously, LibreOffice has one dot, so there's one window open. OBS has one window, and Software Updater has one window. Files has two dots, obviously meaning that there's two windows open. So if I was to open another window, so if we go File, New, text document, and there you go, we see you have a new window open, and also now there's two dots on the side, meaning that there's none other than two windows on the side. So for now, we'll just minimize them, and we'll get back. So, yeah. Now you have all these, you can see that we have some windows open, we have some stuff, but what if you wanted to open open a program outside of these kind of half a dozen programs? Well, Linux kind of or I should say Ubuntu kind of has this all programs-y ish kind of menu. Now, if you look at the bottom corner down here, you can see there's this 3x3 dot grid thing. Now, this is kind of your Show Applications menu, and if we click it, or I should say single left click it, you can see we have our frequent applications. Frequent, and if we click all, this will have none other than all our applications. And you can see if we click the second dot here, it'll bring us to the second panel. And then you can see we have a bunch of different programs. I also put TeamViewer on this. This doesn't come pre-installed, just a heads up. You can also see that you can create little subcategories. We can click that. You can see I have all my system utilities here. Things for disk usage, and fonts, and image viewers, and logs, and taking screenshots, and character map. So, just for the heck of it, let's open character map. And we'll give this a second, because it's running off a SSD flash drive thing. So apparently there's now emojis in Linux too. Lovely. But you can also see that a window has popped, or I shouldn't say a window, a little icon has popped up here with a dot next to it. So there's our characters. And we'll minimize that for now. Now, there's another part of this that's also kind of important. So if you want to see all the windows that you have up, there's two ways to do it. You can either go to each little icon here and right click on it, and it will show you. You can see I have the two windows open here. There's files, and there's the two documents that we had earlier. Or what you can do is you can go up to the top corner up here and click activities. Boom. And then you can see there's all the programs that I have running in the background and the foreground. Click out of activities. So again, if you're looking for something like a menu, you can see that there's a little thing that pops up here. You can click that, and there's your menu. Again, let's do this for LibreOffice. Again, LibreOffice, a little menu pops up for it too. So this will happen with all applications. Continuing on. So if you want to open, let's say, view what's on a flash drive or view what you have in your common folders, you can either click Files. This will automatically take you to the Home folder, which we talked a lot more in depth in our last video. But again, you have things like Documents, Downloads, Music, Pictures, Public, Snap. These are other things. Templates and Videos. Again, Videos has videos, Music has music, Documents has documents, so Downloads have downloads, so on and so forth. So we'll minimize that. You can also click a root here. So if you insert a flash drive, flash drive will pop up here. Now I have this running off a USB SSD. So again, that's why you have all these volume here. But if I'm to click this, boom, there you go. It opens up the volume. Ooh, left click. There you go. It opens up the volume here. So let's close out of this and continue on. Now again, if you're looking for your sys tray with the time and everything, you can see that unlike Windows and some of the other operating systems that we've looked at, it's not down here at the bottom right hand corner. The time is up at the top left. I'm sorry, top middle. And going over it, your set kind of your like volume and the rest of your sys tray is on the top right. And if we click this little arrow down here, you can see there's your sound. There's your output sound. There's your microphone input, your screen brightness. And there you go. I can change the brightness on this. Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, battery, user. And actually, if you wanted to shut it down and log out and all that, there's your shutdown and log out, and it brings up a little window. There's your lock, and there is your settings. So another way to get to settings, since we're on the topic of settings, is obviously you can go down to Show Applications, go under All, and none other than click Settings. And we'll take a quick look through Settings. There's about Ubuntu. So the current version, or at least for December of 2018, is 18.04.1. I guess this is also part of the long-term support, so they might have a 19. I haven't checked super right about now, but there you go. You can see some specs about my computer, obviously time and date, user, default applications. So we'll get out of this. And continuing on, I'm not currently connected to internet, but we'll try and bring up the Ubuntu App Store. Again, if there's an app that's not installed on here that you would like, you would open up the Ubuntu software. And as we talked about last time, there's different categories and different apps. This one is a little bit different. Again, you can click up here. You can see all this stuff that's pre-installed on my system. You can also see updates and stuff like that. So now that we've talked about how to open applications, we've talked about how to kind of download applications and some of the basic settings, if you want to keep your system up to date, no need. There's a software updater right here. You can see I have some updates to install. Tells you all about them. Has them listed, has their download size. You can, deselect them and change your settings and so on and so forth. And as we talked about in our last video, this is how your system stays up to date. You can see that there's files. So it will install updates for all of this, for all of the stuff selected. Now, if there's one that I didn't want to install for some reason, obviously I could just deselect it, and there you go. But I'm going to install all the updates. You can see it even tells you I have 135 megabytes that needs to be downloaded. I'll hit install now. Sometimes it asks for my password. I'm obviously going to give it. And it's going to say I can't because I need to check my internet connection. But that's how you update your system. So with this is I guess you could say, the general layout of the Ubuntu system. This is some of the basic features. Again, in future videos, we'll be talking more about terminal commands and more advanced stuff for Ubuntu and Linux and other stuff like that. So if you're looking for those videos, I'll probably throw links down to them in the description. I'm also planning to put all my Linuxy Ubuntu videos in a playlist, so maybe you might need to scroll down there a little bit. But in our next video, we'll probably be talking about Zorin OS, because that particular version of Linux is the most easiest and the most similar to Windows. So we'll be talking about that in our next video. Stay tuned for that. And of course, YouTube, thanks for watching. If you like these videos, you got to hit that subscribe button. Check out my channel, because we have a bunch of other nerdy computer and electronic related videos. We also do stuff on music and other kind of setups, and occasionally I'll throw some other random videos up there. So once again, YouTube, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned something. Check out our other videos too. Bye.